Okay. So I was just going to say to introduce my colleagues here who will also be presenting and responding to your questions. So starting off, we've got Estelle Ijo, who is a current scholar at Exeter, who is from Nigeria, and Estelle will be talking about her experience, the recent experience, just like the ones you're going through at the moment. Then we have Leonard, Leonard Lima from uh, Brazil, who has recently completed his program at the University of Exeter and is now an alumnus, sorry, and back in Brazil. Then we have Professor Graham Hall, who is a trustee at the with the Hornby Trust. Then we have Dr. Nicholas Bremner, who is the course director for the MEd TESOL at the University of Exeter. And then Harry, Dr. Harry Kucha, who is chair of the Hornby Trust and also a assistant professor at the University of Birmingham, UK. And myself, I'm Neil Kemp, and I am not a specialist, professional specialist. I'm an education economist by background, and I am a trustee and I oversee the scholarships program on behalf of the Hornby Trust. Now, to make a point, as there's so many of you, we can only take questions in the chat box. So please place your questions in the chat box. We will attempt to respond to them all if we have not been able to do so in our presentations. One of the key things we want to do is to provide you with information about the program and also to inform you that it's an incredibly competitive program with probably 1,000 applications for the 10 places. So please check through the criteria, because if you do not meet any of the criteria or just one of the criteria that we are explaining to you, you're wasting your own time in applying this year. You'll learn from this and maybe go out for next year and apply again. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to the chair of the Hornby Trust, Dr. Harry Kucha. And just to remember, sorry, Harry, ahead, please put your questions in the chat box and I will be filtering them.
Okay.
Okay, now, Harry.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Neil. And welcome to the many people who have joined us online today. I'll just talk very briefly about the Hornby Trust, the AS Hornby Educational Trust, which is named after its founder, Albert Sidney Hornby, who wrote the famous Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. The trust has existed since 1961, so it's a very old organization. And we've run lots of initiatives in the global south, in low and middle income countries around the world, including a scholarship that has gone on for many years. We also support teacher education and teacher development projects and teacher associations around the world through our teacher association projects. We also support our alumni. So when they have a scholarship and after their scholarship, they go back to their countries, we support the work they do. We encourage them to develop teacher development projects to support other colleagues, because that's why the trust puts its money into supporting professionals from around the world to come and study so that they can go back and make a difference in their communities. Now, in terms of the scholarship, the AS Hornby Scholarship, Uh, and next year, this year we offer 10 like last year, and we are now recruiting for 10 more places in the next academic year, the 2025-2026 academic year. And we have been very privileged to work alongside the University of Exeter over the last 2 years to carry on the mission of the Hornby Trust in this regards. So what we expect from all applicants is to make sure that you've read every detail of the call. And so the questions you are asking are actually questions that are not covered in the links that we have already shared with you. And on our part on the Hornby Trust, we expect you to first of all, apply to the University of Exeter. Now, you don't need to have been offered a place in the university to apply for this scholarship, but if you've checked all the criteria and you think that you meet all the criteria, then apply to the University of Exeter. That you would get an application reference number, which you can then use to apply for the scholarship. Now, if it turns out that Exeter does not offer you a place because you do not meet their internal criteria, then you're automatically disqualified from this, right? But if you meet the criteria, then by all means, you would have to go through a process of shortlisting and an interview process, which I will not talk a lot about. Now, what we expect in the application is very basic. We need you to write about 1,000 words, a statement of about 1,000 words when you've already applied to the University of Exeter. So the Hornby Trust application requires you to write about 1,000 words, okay, not more than. It doesn't need to be up to 1,000 words, but you're allowed 1,000 words maximum to respond to three specific questions. And these include giving us a key, at least one key challenge that you and other professionals in your context have typically faced on a daily basis. And in that context of your work, and also outline how you think that studying at Exeter would help you to together with your colleagues when you go back, respond to this challenge. There are also two more questions which you would see in the application process, and we can talk a bit more about that in the questions and answer slot. But the big thing is that we want you to give us concrete evidence about the work you're doing with your colleagues, the issues you're facing, but also to show that you've taken time to look at the Masters in Education in TESOL program at the University of Exeter to understand what they offer and how the different things that they offer, the different modules that they offer, would help respond to the issues that you are hoping to work together with your colleagues to resolve in the future in your context. So we expect scholars not to just we also want to see evidence that you are an engaged professional, that you are part of a community of professionals. It doesn't need to be a big teacher association, but that you're working with other colleagues. Because one reason why the trust invests its money in education, in educating you, is so you can go back and make a difference. And if you don't already have that connection with other professionals, how can we trust that you'll be able to make a difference working with other colleagues? So it would be good to show the things that you do as an individual, but also how you work as part of a community and how a master's degree from the University of Exeter would be beneficial to you and that professional community, which could be your colleagues in your school, in your region, in your district, or your local teacher uh, community of practitioners, or a larger teacher association within which you have some influence. So I'll stop at this point, and I'd like to hand over back to Neil. Um, to for the next speaker.
Yeah, thank you, Harry. There's a number of extremely important points there, which I'm sure we'll be referring back to. But can I just remind all participants, please keep putting in your questions in the chat box, and we will get back to responding to them all. But I'll hand over now to Dr. Nicholas Bremner, who is sitting in Exeter, I think, at this very moment, and will explain to you about the Exeter program and the criteria that they require for admission to the University of Exeter. All very important. Okay, Nikki, over to you.
Thank you so much. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all of you. Let me just share my screen because I've got some slides I'd like to share. Let me just make that large. Oh, sorry, I pressed the wrong. What am I doing? Sorry about this. Show from the beginning. There we go. Okay, can you hear me okay? I think I've seen myself off there for a while. Yes, can you hear Neil, Harry, all good?
Yeah,
I see
good.
some nods. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I'm Nicholas Bremner, or Nicky, and I'm the program leader for the MEd TESOL, MEd Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. I'll tell you some very brief information about the course, and we'll talk about how you can apply. So Exeter is in the southwest of England. It's quite well located for other big cities such as London and Bristol. It's a nice area, really nice area. This is Exeter from above, and it's close to lots of natural beauty which you might encounter during your time at Exeter. The course is run at the School of Education at St. Luke's campus, which has a rich history. The university is highly ranked. The School of Education is quite highly ranked as well. And it's a nice area to take your MEd TESOL. So, how is the course structured? So in the UK, most master's programs, including this one, are 12 months. So it's quite an intense 12 months, but it's only 12 months. There are 3 terms. So term 1 is roughly September to January. Term 2 is February to May. And term 3 is June to September, more or less. So if successful on this course, you would take 2 modules in term 1, which are listed there. I won't go through them in detail. And in term 2, you've got a lot of options. So this year we offered 11 options. So you would take 4 of these options. So we won't go through any of these in detail, but it just shows you've got a lot of ways of specializing and taking modules that are really of your interest. But the ones I've highlighted in yellow, I think, are particularly relevant to Hornby scholars. And in particular, the first one, developing language teachers, which we expect all Hornby scholars would take, because it's about how to work with teachers and help support them in their development, not just your own. So it's a really important module. And there's also the curriculum design one there, the second one in yellow. The overall point here is there's many ways in which you can specialize as part of your degree. In term 3, you've got 2 options. You can either do a research-based dissertation, or you can do a more practical-based portfolio. And we support you in making that decision. I think both could be, very relevant for Hornby scholars. You've got lots of support as well. Some of you may not have been at university for a while. There's lots of sessions on critical thinking, referencing, writing assignments, and things like that. So you'll be well supported. So, requirements. So, as Harry said, it's really important that you apply to the University of Exeter first before applying for the Hornby Scholarship. The Hornby Scholarship cannot consider an application for scholarship unless you have applied. But it's really important to reiterate that you don't need to have an offer. You don't need to have an unconditional offer or a conditional offer. You just need to have applied. So as soon as you apply online on the website, you will get a number, and that number is what you will use in order to apply for the Hornby Scholarships application. The Hornby Scholarships application is separate. It's a separate process, although we're obviously working together, and we're delighted to work with the Hornby Trust, but the 2 processes are separate. So please don't forget to apply to both of them. Again, to reiterate, you don't need, for example, all of the criteria immediately. So when you apply, you might not have the English language requirements, or you might not have the certificate yet. That's fine. You can apply, and that can potentially be updated later. This is our internal requirements. This is not the Hornby requirements. Okay, this is our requirements, and you need to meet our requirements as well as Hornby. So we consider applicants that have an equivalent of a 53% of what we call a 2-2 honours degree in the UK. Now, undergraduate degrees around the world vary greatly, and I couldn't tell you, for example, what a 53% would be equivalent to in 53% in Nigeria or Vietnam or Mexico. What I would recommend you do is apply with the documents that you have, and admissions will get back to you if they need further information. We often give special consideration to applicants who have experience, who have teaching experience, teacher training experience, but that don't have necessarily, for example, 53% or the equivalent. So there is flexibility there if you do have work experience. But just do bear in mind that you do need to meet the Hornby criteria to be considered for Hornby. So I think Hornby, for example, you need 3 years of full-time teaching or related professional experience. So we can't accept, the university may accept you, but the Hornby scholarship would not consider you if you do not have that. Our English language requirements are on the website. So if you just search for English language requirements Exeter, or go on or search for MEd Cecil University of Exeter, there's a link to the English language requirements. Please read them carefully. There are many different tests that you can use to prove your English language requirement. It can be IELTS, TOEFL, but there are also others. For example, some countries have had their courses taught in English, so that can be used in some cases as an exemption for an IELTS, for example. But please double check that. Just to repeat though, you don't need this before you apply. Okay, you don't need to have everything in order before the deadline. You will obviously need it before, eventually, but you don't need it for the deadline to apply. And here are just some key dates. So 26th of February 2025 is the application deadline for the scholarship. So obviously you need to apply for the University of Exeter before that. And we will let everyone know by the 18th of April 2025 if you have been shortlisted. And we will invite approximately 20, more or less, applicants to interview. And that will happen between the 28th of April and the 14th of May. And we'll let you all know by the 22nd of May what the final outcome is. And I'm not going to go through these, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And this is a picture of our former cohort, not the current one. So it was last year's cohort. I'll give it back to you, Neil or Harry.
Yeah.
Neil.
Okay. Thanks very much, Nicky. There's a few questions
I
coming
can't
in.
hear you, Harry. I don't know whether. Sorry, Neil.
It's me.
No, Neil, you're fine. You're fine. I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's a few questions coming in that I'll put to you later, Nicky, that are a bit specific for you. But now we've got Graham, Professor Graham Hall, who will be explaining a little more about the application and selection process, amongst many other things. Graham, over to you.
We'll see where we go. Hi, everybody. So, as we'll pick up from where Nicky left off. Imagine that you've completed your application form for Exeter, and you've got your Exeter reference number. and imagine that you've then completed the additional Hornby application form, which you cite your reference number on so we can cross-reference the two documents. That's really important for us. That's a sort of technical thing. What happens then is from the, as Neil said, the many applications we get, there's a lot of filtering goes on, largely by our colleagues at Exeter as a first sift. And what we have to do, and you can probably imagine how challenging this is we have to filter the many, literally hundreds of applications down to, as Nikki says, about 20 people who come for interview. And then, as you'll have gathered, from those 20, we're looking to offer scholarships to 10 people. So that's kind of the numbers, and that's how the process is narrowing down to the 10 successful candidates. And what I'm going to do now is really reiterate the points that Harry made at the start of the meeting. Once to be considered for a Hornby scholarship, as Nikki said, you have to have fulfilled the Exeter criteria for things like language level experience, and so on and so forth. But then when you come onto the Hornby issues, which is what the scholarships will then be seeking, what we're really looking for is that you're in a position whereby you are already part of your teaching community, and on the program, you will benefit from the program by being able to reflect on what you and your teaching community do. And the program will also benefit you and your teaching community when you go back to your home program at the end of your studies. So what we're not looking for really is a candidate who might say, this study will benefit my personal career development and my in-classroom teaching. That's not enough. What the scholarships are for are to help you contribute to develop as a professional, but to develop professionals around you as well, and to develop the profession back home. So that's kind of the background, to reiterate what Harry said. We'll come into how we discuss that in the interviews in a moment, but fundamentally, if you're invited for interview, there'll be a panel of 4 people. So we understand that that can be a little bit intimidating for people who come to interview. 2 colleagues will be from Exeter and 2 colleagues will be from the Hornby Trust. An interview lasts about 35 to 40 minutes. And the interview is to give you the chance to show how you engage with your community, how the masters will benefit you and your community, and how we will use the masters and the knowledge and reflection you do during that period when you go back home. So all the time, I'm repeating this phrase all the time, how will the masters benefit you and your community when you go back home? So if you think of that when you're thinking of how to answer our kind of questions, those are the things we're looking for. At the end of the interview, the 4 panelists, for example, myself, Harry, Nikki, will make independent decisions and judgments, then we'll come together through a systematic process of evaluation. What we want to do during the interview, first of all, is to make you as relaxed as possible, to give you the best chance to say what you can bring to your context after completion of the masters. During the interview, people will be nervous. If you need time to think of a response, that's absolutely fine. If you need us to clarify a question, that's absolutely fine. It's not there to catch you out. It's there for you to show what you know about both Exeter, and you've engaged with what the opportunities are there, and to show how that will benefit you when you go back to your professional community. So, the kinds of things we will ask you to talk about are this. What are you doing now in your professional community as you go into the application process? What are you doing now that the Masters in Education in Exeter will help you reflect upon and develop your thinking around? And what are you doing now that will help you to contribute to the kind of discussions you might have on a Masters programme? What can you bring to the programme, and what can the programme give you? We're looking that you're familiar with what you're signing up for, really, but not just familiar to tick boxes and do assignments. That's very important, of course, but that you know how it fits into your professional development and the development of language teaching in your home context. So in other words, as I said earlier, why do you want this Masters in Education? Not just for my career, not just to be a better teacher, more than that. How can it help you contribute to your context? What will you be taking away? And then the other really important issue for Hornby that we'll be exploring in interviews and in the application process is, what will you do with what you've learned, and what will you do with what you've reflected upon during the master's program to support English language teaching in your home context? What will you take away, and what will you do with that? What actions, what activities, what challenges are there that you need to address, that you would hope to address? How might you address them? So I guess I've got kind of 4 big words. The process is, who are you? What's your context? How do you help that context? What are the challenges of language teaching in that context? And how might the Masters help you and your community subsequently address those challenges? Those are the sorts of things we're looking for. So hopefully I've tried to convey the idea that coming into the application process, you need to think who you are, what ELT is and is not in your context, what the challenges are. Then you need to kind of look at the master's program at Exeter and think how these 2 things might come together to help language teaching in your context in the future when you complete the master's and go back. What we want is the scholarships and the finances of Hornby to make a difference. That's what this, to put it in boring terms, this investment in you is so that you can make a difference when you finish the program. I think that's about it from me.
Okay.
So those are the things to think about.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Graham. There's a lot there that I'm sure we'll be picking up
Yeah.
again,
Absolutely.
and reinforcing. And now over to Brazil, where our colleague and alumnus from the last year's program, Leonardo, is waiting to explain a few from the perspective of a scholar and alumnus.
Hi, everyone. Greetings from Brazil. As Leo has just said, this is where I'm hailing from, and it's really nice to be here to talk to you about my experience as a former scholar, now alumnus, Hornby alumnus. And I can tell you, everyone, that Exeter is simply amazing. My experience there was incredible because the people there, they'll make sure that you succeed. This is the difference about this place, and I'm very proud to say it. Dr. Bremner and his team, they are incredible, and they will make sure that you feel great there. And one of the things that I have to say for those who become successful applicants, who become Hornby scholars in the next cohort, what I have to tell you is that the first thing you have to do when you settle in is to please establish your personal study program, plans, and goals. That's very important. I do remember after settling in, shortly after settling in, I was one of the last ones to do so. I had a conversation with Dr. Nicholas Bremner, with Nikki, and he asked me about my personal study. And I was taking the effort. I was studying like some hours a day. And then he he kindly told me, like, Leo, you need to do more. and this is one thing that I tell to all of you. Once you enter this program, you have to step up. You need to do the very best you can, you know. And as a student, you have to study even more than you do as a practitioner because you have other things to do. This is a full time study program, so it's very rigorous, and really it needs a great deal of dedication from oneself to be successful. So and he as a he's very fond of Pomodoro technique. So you get to know that once you become a successful applicant, once you become a Hornby Scholar. And I try to apply that. So, and it helped me from the very beginning to be successful in this program. So this is the first thing. But another piece of advice. So Exeter is a wonderful place to live. I mean, there is a community for you there, regardless where you come from, regardless where you've been and what your preferences are. There is a place for you there. Exeter is a very welcoming city. The university is incredible. So there will be a community for you, and get involved. Meet people, meet your peers. The TESOL program welcomes people from everywhere in the world. So, and one of the most enriching experiences that I had as a scholar was to get to know the people. And coming back to Brazil, that gave me a lot of ideas. I am collaborating with people from Vietnam, people from the UK, people from Turkey, and of course people from Brazil at the moment. So, and these has inspired me to have ideas, to have new perspectives, and to learn more. So open your mind. It was very important to me. So get social once you were there. Meet other people, because they will inspire you to have ideas, and you have that opportunity. And I'm very grateful uh, for this opportunity, because meeting them, meeting other people, you see that some of the challenges that they face in their context are very similar to the ones you face in so many ways, and they will help you to have a keen eye to the problems. And I like when Graham talked about the application, about the third question that you have to develop on about the problems. So this is very important. And again, you also will have plenty of opportunities to serve in the university, to work even, so just open yourself to those possibilities, because that will help you when you get back home. I just got back just a few weeks ago, and I've been very busy now, because these opportunities, as it's been said here, just not equip me as a professional, but it developed me to help other teachers. I'm going to have a 4-hour session this afternoon. It's 9:42 now in Brazil, so I'll have a 4-hour session later this afternoon with 16 practitioners at a language school. So, because this is what it is. And one thing, that my last thing, this experience also helped me to see how we have to be realistic about the impact we make. Some of you who are on the other side listening to us maybe think that, oh, I'm going to be the Minister of Education in my country someday, and that is great. But as it's been said here, you have to realize that being under the Hornby label, I'm very grateful for, is to have the opportunity to take part of something that's much bigger than you, and still becoming able to transform the reality around you, to make the lives of other teachers and students better. That's what being under the Hornby label means to me, and that's what I'd like to say to you before applying, before thinking about this. It's not just about you, it's about transforming ELT education in your context. So thank you so much. Best of luck to you all. And yes, Hornby and Exeter are amazing, not just to yourself, but to your community, your context. Thank you.
Thanks, Leonardo. That was great. And that was a very positive statement. And now we have Estelle, who is sitting enjoying the rain of Exeter at this very moment, I'm sure. Hi, Estelle. Uh,
Unmute yourself, Estelle.
unmute. Can you unmute, please? No, it's not coming through.
I think it's your microphone. Can you use your laptop microphone? Because there
Can
would
you
be
hear
a
me now?
perfect.
Great.
Okay. I've got a flu, so my voice is kind of shaky. But I hope everyone can make out what I'm saying. Okay. Okay, thank you. So my name is Estelle, and I'm Nigerian. Currently, one of the Hornby scholars studying here at Exeter. So I'm going to just talk about my application process, my current experiences, and the most recent experiences in the past few months. After applying for the program to the university, I actually found out about the scholarship from the school. They sent me this email saying, Estelle, could you be eligible for fully funded scholarship, blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of reluctant because my background is actually in science, not in English, but science education. Even though I've been teaching English informally without a English teaching certification. Anyway, I literally wasn't going to apply. I waited till a day to the deadline is when I put in my application. And when I got feedback from the board saying I wasn't shortlisted, I wasn't surprised. I was sad, but I was not surprised. I felt, okay, maybe they picked other qualified candidates because after all, they can only give scholarship to 10 people. So a few weeks after that, well, I was placed on reserve, by the way. I wasn't shortlisted, but I was placed on reserve, even though I felt like they just told everyone that, to let them off softly. I didn't believe what reserve thing meant. And eventually I got invited for an interview, which went very well. I had Nikki, Will, and some other trustees, I can't remember who it was, on the interview. And in my opinion, I think it went well, very well. While preparing for the interview, unfortunately, there wasn't enough information about the scholarship online. I checked YouTube, Google, everything. I even asked ChatGPT, but there was nothing. So I just prepared for the interview as I would any other interview, talk about myself and my context very clearly and very specifically. So like I said, I thought it went very well. And when I got this scholarship, I was happy, but I was very surprised as well because I felt like, I thought I needed to have a degree in English, which I don't have. I've only got the teaching experience and a bachelor's, and I even have another master's in another field. It was like a dream because I really wanted to teach English. I've been teaching English on the side, but now I can do it properly and more professionally. And so since I've been here, the modules that I've done are very rigorous, as Leo said. It's nothing like any other academic environment I've been in. It's very demanding, but also very fulfilling because I believe that if you go through this program successfully, which when you're selected, I hope you will, you find out that there are things that you thought you couldn't do, academically, even personally, that you can do. And it's what this program demands of you. It makes you, reach the highest potential that you can reach. And I've only been here one term, and I'm saying all this. Anyway, it's been very nice. The university, it gives you these supports that I think in my context, my former context rather, it's not there. The teachers are very knowledgeable. Like they are so helpful as well and very approachable, which is foreign to me, honestly. I've never had this kind of support in my life before. And also, I'm going to talk about my current experiences. Now, I feel like I have changed in a way. I'm now more confident and able to, I'm able to speak about the things that I'm learning, the things that I hope to learn and the things that I have learned in this past few months. It's a very short period of time. It's very technical, but I feel like it's also very practical because everything that you get here, it's something that you can use immediately. When Nikki was talking about the dissertation portfolio thing that you have to do, for me, I'm taking the portfolio because I feel like it's more helpful for me in my context to develop an artifact that would be used immediately when I go back. So basically, to summarize everything that I've said, it wasn't easy. I feel like it's a very competitive scholarship. My opinion before I applied was that it's not popular. A lot of people are not applying. But when I didn't get shortlisted, I had to Google, how many people apply for the Hornby scholarship in Nigeria? And it was a lot. So basically, it's very competitive, but it's also very helpful if you do get selected because you're going to improve not just academically. I also feel like interpersonal relationships, you have to build a community, just as Leo said, and it happens because now already you're part of a community of teachers who are also learning in the same program as you. So basically, your senses, your skills, in your knowledge is being improved in this 1 year program. I look forward to the rest of my. It's been very enjoyable for me. I know that this term and the next one is also going to be promising, for me and the rest of the scholars on the program. I look forward to learning more, honestly, because I've learned a lot. I've done 2 assignments, which have been very tough. I thought at the beginning of the term that I was never going to be able to do it, but I've done it. And I look forward to the rest and hopefully putting all of this knowledge and experience back into my context in Nigeria, where I'm from, and promote the Hornby Trust because a lot of people don't know about this, and I think it's going to be very helpful, not just for me, but all the teachers around me. And even if it's not directly in English language teaching, because I teach English as a subject, not a foreign language. But I believe when I go back, there's going to be opportunities for me to develop not just English language teachers in secondary schools, but also I think there should be foreign language centers or something in my context where I can contribute, even if it's not a very big change, it's going to be helpful, which is what I think the scholarship is about. So that's all that I have to say. I could say more, but I have, time constraints. But basically, it's a wonderful experience. And I feel like my life currently is a movie. I never thought I would be able to, get professional experience in learning how to teach English because I've been doing it basically since I could speak, but now I can do it more, more professionally under the generosity of the Hornby Trust, and it's really wonderful. That's all I'll say. Anyway, thank you. I'm going to put myself.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Estelle. And best of luck. I'm sure you'll succeed very highly. Can I say we've been having quite a number of questions that I've been trying to put them together thematically. And I'll sort of farm them out to colleagues here and hopefully begin to cover. There's quite a concern around IELTS, TOEFL, what prerequisites there are around those. How might we take the test? Do we have to have taken the test before the application process or whatever? Shall I put that to Nikki because you're very much involved in these criteria? Okay, over.
Yeah, Neil. You don't need to take the test before you apply. That's a very important thing. I mean, it would be great if you have the requirements already, but if you don't and you are selected, then you can take the test later. And am I right, Neil, in saying that the trust will support candidates in taking IELTS tests?
Yeah,
Is
the
that
short,
continued to run?
yeah, the shortlisted ones.
Okay, so
We
if you are
we
shortlisted, not just if you are selected, but actually if you're invited to interview, the trust will, if you do not have sort of a current IELTS certificate or equivalent, the trust will support you. So the main message is basically don't worry too much about it. You know, if you have the English language requirements, which I'm sure most or all of you will have the ability to meet those, it would be a case of doing those if you are successful. I'll just in the chat now. I'm going to put the link English language requirements at the University of Exeter. So read through them. Some of you may be exempt. For example, if you've been taught another degree in a sort of native speaking country.
Can I just add a word on that, Neil?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, yes, we do. For those who are shortlisted, we do pay for you to do an IELTS test. I think we do offer preparatory. We also do offer the opportunity for you to prepare for the IELTS test. But if you are, this is a really general advice, and I must start by saying I was a Hornby scholar myself so many years ago in 2006, 2007. If you are seriously looking forward to applying for a scholarship to do a degree in the UK, you should be preparing for the IELTS test. And I'm saying this because we have had people who've been given an offer in the past, have been awarded a scholarship, but did not make it in the IELTS test. And they lost the position, the position. So we would pay for you to do the IELTS test. But if you don't get it, you are not going to get the scholarship, even if we have offered you the scholarship. So it is in your own interest to invest in preparing for the IELTS test well before. We can understand if you cannot afford to pay for the test, so we would pay for that, but it is in your interest to start preparing yourself towards the test. Because if you don't get it, even if we've given you the scholarship, you've lost it and your scholarship is not transferable to the next year.
Yeah, very, very good point. Very good point. And Nikki has posted in the chat box the links to the Exeter web pages that detail the whole requirement around this. And I do recommend that you go to those web pages. You'll find them anyway if you go in through the Exeter website. Okay, should we go to the next one? And that's around the acceptability of people with other degrees. Well, we heard from Estelle just now, but can we go to Graham on this one?
Gosh, thank you. I noticed one of the questions is can I apply if I have a degree in a completely different area? I think if I try and refer you back to how Harry and I started. In and of itself, that's not the issue. The issue is what is your role in English language teaching and what can you contribute?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for. So if, for example, I can't remember who it was, and I'll get the actual qualification on. If you have another master's in another subject area, that doesn't matter. What matters is that you are currently in the field of English language teaching and able to learn from and contribute to the masters in Exeter and contribute to your profession when you go back to your home context. Yeah. I should say we perhaps, and Harry might jump in here, we perhaps do have a reservation if somebody already has a master's in applied linguistics for ELT. If you're kind of reproducing the same material, because what we might do then, and again, this refers back to the criteria, We might say, well, if you've already got a master's, then you should be able to be doing something in your home context. And if you have a master's and you haven't been doing something to support other colleagues in your home context, we might go, well, why? And why would we want to shortlist you in that situation? So my answer is being slightly evasive. I realize that, in that I'm not directly answering the question. But to have another master's is not to say that you cannot apply. But another way of reframing the question is, what are you doing now that can help us decide about how you would contribute and learn and benefit from a Hornby scholarship? And, you know, you might be able to, for example, say, I have a very good record at higher education in different subjects. I would study successfully, but that's probably all you need to say if you've got a master's in a different subject. That's enough for us, you know. Use it as a piece of evidence. Don't not mention it. But then you need to consider how you meet the criteria in other ways. Yeah, a slightly evasive answer. Harry, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, okay. The eligibility criteria, which you would probably have already seen on the website in the links that we shared with you. The second one says you must have a minimum of 3 years full-time TESOL teaching or related professional experience after your first degree. That's a basic minimum. It could be several other years. And in some cases, we've seen people with a degree in a completely different subject. We had a scholar like that from Iran last year, and there's Estelle this year, but they have demonstrated that if, despite having a degree in another subject, they have been involved in English language teaching, and they are working with a community of English language professionals. So yes, you might apply with a degree from another subject area. If you meet the requirements for Exeter, and you meet our requirements, we would shortlist you, but you need to be making the case why the program at Exeter would be an addition to would help you improve what you are already currently doing and engage more with your colleagues to improve language education in your context.
Yeah, that's very, very clearly put there. Very clearly put. Thanks. I've got a couple another ones for Nikki. A couple of people, can we resubmit our application? We've submitted them already and we want to modify them. Is that at all possible? And the second one is someone with other academic qualifications asks, can we get exemption from some of the modules if we're on the course?
So the first question is, can you update your information? So what I would do there is email admission and explain what you want to do. So the email is pgpadmission@exeter.ac.uk, which I'm putting in the chat. I imagine that will have been sent to you in an email already, but that is who you would contact for that. And they may also ask you for further information if you're missing a document or they want further information. The second question is, can you be exempt? The short answer is no, because you are international students on scholarships. You can't do it because of visa implications. But if you were a full fee paying student and you were based in the UK, you could do it. But basically, the visa office will not, the immigration office in the UK will not issue a visa for a full-time course. If it's got exemptions, it no longer counts as a full-time course.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. Just a very quick one just come in. There's some more that I'll come back to. Someone saying I'm getting rejected when I submit my date of birth on the form. Whether
I would try the UK way. Potentially, you might be trying the American way. That sort of immediately comes to mind. But if not, email pgtadmissions@exeter.
Yeah. Thank you. I wondered whether.
Yeah, and don't email me with sort of technical queries like that, because I don't actually do any of that kind of technical stuff with the system. So just really PGT admissions is the email address for any query, any technical IT thing, or you've forgotten a document, or you're not sure about anything about the application. Okay.
Okay, thanks. And now another for Graham or Harry. One is, do I require a reference letter to go with the my application? And the second one is there an age limitation? Are there age requirements?
I would say no, there's no age requirement. The requirements are exactly as we have outlined on the website. Okay, I'm going to share a link to the Hornby website again, just so you can go there, and also through the University of Exeter, you can also find that. So this is the link to the Hornby Trust website, please. If you click on that, you would see the scholarships and you can read that again. There is no age limit. We have said we need a minimum of 3 years full-time of involvement in English language teaching or a related a role. It might be education, it might be working as an inspector in a ministry related to education or some form of curriculum development, whatever, but real engagement with language education. That's all. Whether you need a reference or not, I don't know if Exeter requires a reference letter, but we really do not need that. We want you to sell yourself as much as possible.
So the University of Exeter, for the Exeter side of the application, will need one reference letter, and that can be from a current or former employer, or it can be from an academic at university. In your case, I'd recommend, if you have the experience and there's an employer willing to write a letter, you can ask them to do it, because it evidences your practical working experience. But just to say, you don't need to have that in necessarily before you apply. So if you applied before the deadline and you didn't have a reference, you could still apply for the Hornby scholarship and you wouldn't miss the opportunity. But later on, you would eventually have to upload the references along with your English language and any other missing requirements.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, you've referred to all the websites, etc., the Hornby website and the Exeter website, where there's a lot of detail on all these requirements. Now, in terms of general questions, which I'll look at, do I require a visa, a passport visa? Well, not at the time of application, but at a later stage, you can wait, obviously, until you've been finally given an award. It does take a bit of time to process, and that's why we have the timeline that we do to allow you, any scholar who is awarded, to obtain a passport and obtain a scholar's visa to come to the UK. So that is not, it's not a requirement for the application process. And then I was asked, there was a question from someone who said lives in a rural area, problems of connectivity, etc. Well, we do have scholars who've come from teaching in rural locations and have proved to be very successful. I don't think it should be a restriction for doing this particular scholarship. We are considering at the Hornby Trust whether to offer a distance learning master's scholarship in TESOL. And if we decide we're going to, we will look to be advertising that over the next few months. So keep an eye on the Hornby website to see whether there's any announcement coming through on on that.
Sorry, Neil, just to jump in, there was a question, wasn't there? Are the interviews face-to-face or online?
Yes, I'm sorry.
They're
I
on-
was
no,
covered that. Yeah.
They're online. And again, just to try and put minds at rest, we recognise that interview candidates might have technical problems during the interview, and we build in a little bit of slack time so people can reconnect and things like that.
Yeah.
To give candidates every opportunity to have an online interview, which gives them the best opportunity to tell us about themselves.
Yeah.
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 But again, if you were shortlisted, part of this is your responsibility as well. So we cannot improve broadband where you are. We can only make it as open as possible, give you every opportunity and be flexible. We've had in the past instances where the interview just stopped because of technical problems, and then we contacted the candidate again to reschedule. So we are kind of flexible with that, but we also expect that you can try and find space. You can move to a place where you have better connectivity just for the purpose of the interview itself if you were shortlisted. So you also have a responsibility to take on. Now, while we are at this, I just saw a question that came in. If I can get that out of the way. Can we bring our family? That is not something for us to decide. That is the UK Home Office has its regulations about students. We cannot answer that question. But a scholarship, if you are awarded a scholarship, it's given to you as an individual, and we would cover what we say we cover. If you are coming with your family, and I think some Hornby scholars have come with family, that would be entirely your responsibility. However, we expect you to be fully committed to your studies, and because it would be a really bad investment on our part that we're putting in so much money for you to study, and you are dealing with family problems all the time while you're here. So those are decisions for you to take, but that is not something that the Hornby Trust or the university would be able to make a decision for or to give an opinion on.
Yeah, exactly. And we, to stress what Harry said, we only give a stipend, the living costs for a single person. And the current restriction on UK scholar visas is that you cannot bring your family if you're doing a master's degree. That might change, but that's the current situation.
Right.
We've had a couple of other questions again about with previous master's degrees, etc. But I think we've covered that in quite some detail. You'll have to go back through. Do my colleagues have any further reflections, comments that they would like to mention?
I'm just looking at a question, Neil, earlier that about the application form in the University of Exeter in the funding section. The questions were, are you self-funded? If you're being financially sponsored, please enter name of sponsor. I would imagine that you can write Hornby Trust in that box for now. Does that sound reasonable, Neil? I mean, because those applicants will not be self-funded, but they'll be applying to the Hornby Trust scholarship. And another thing to say that when you apply, you'll get an email from the university at some point to say what the outcome is, whether it's unsuccessful or you'll have a conditional offer, which means your offer would be accepted subject to you providing all of the missing documentation, or an unconditional offer in which there's nothing else to provide. But the university will also ask you to give a deposit, a financial deposit. It sends that to all applicants. If you're applying solely for the Hornby scholarship, just ignore that. You don't have to pay anything to the university. Just don't pay anything. Just leave it. And obviously, if successful, Hornby Trust would cover the full fees. So don't feel pressured that you have to put up some money towards, 10, 20% deposit. You don't have to.
That's a very good point. Any other things and other matters, Harry, Graham, no, Leonardo, no?
I'll just want to encourage anyone who's looking to applying to please take enough time to read every detail
Yeah,
of the application process, the criteria for Exeter. Look at other things that are happening. Make sure you know a bit more about the university and read every detail of the requirements from the Hornby perspective and make a decision whether you fit. So actually tick everything to say, yes, I qualify for this. Yes, I have this before you apply. Many people tend to apply without even a basic understanding of what the scholarship is about. And it shows in your application, and that's a straight knockout for yourself. So please invest some time to read a bit more about the program, the details of the program, the modules they offer, what specific modules, because the modules are all summarized. You have an idea what they're offering, what specific aspects of the program would be important to the work that you are doing, because that information makes your application gives you a quality application, and it's much better than, oh, I just want to improve my professional development. I am very interested in professional development and I will be better at what, and what in that program would make you better. So please spend a lot of time reading and rereading the call.
Yeah, exactly.
Neil, could I just add one little thing, just as a
Yeah.
sort of a tip to the applicants? We see a lot of applicants that are really talking about themselves and what they would get from it. They would come to the UK, they would get to visit the UK, and it would be great for their career and their professional development. Those are often the weaker applications because the applicants are just kind of thinking about themselves in a kind of selfish way. So really, if you can distance yourself from that and think about how you'd help other teachers. Obviously, you will develop personally, and Estelle and Leo have had a very, personally very important, year of their lives doing this. But you would not be selected just by talking about yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to clearly talk about what you're going to be doing to help others. And
Great.
that is the biggest weakness.
Yeah. So really great, Nick. Thank you. So ask yourself this question: why would anyone in the world invest so much money just for me to improve myself, me alone? Start from there. And that means that you need to start thinking, what am I already doing now? Because if you're not doing anything for anybody now, you're not just going, the MA in TESOL does not prepare you to go and do things for other people. So you should already have some evidence that you are part of a community, even if you are just part of a teacher community where you exchange ideas. You don't need to be a leader, or you don't need to be the president of an association. Just being a member of an association where you interact with other colleagues already shows that you have a network of people whom you would be able to go back to and share your ideas, because the scholarship is meant to continue to improve the quality of English language education in different contexts around the world. And so we are looking for people who are people, not people who are selfish individuals who just want to improve themselves. So try and position yourself in relation to your colleagues so we can see that this person is worth the investment.
Fine. Thank you. And sorry, there was one thing I've just remembered we haven't emphasized. You should be resident, working, and a national of a country from low or middle income bands as defined in the DAC OECD list. that is clearly explained on both the University of Exeter and the Hornby websites. So please, if your country, nationality, country where you're working and your nationality are not on that list, it's an immediate rejection and a waste of your time for having submitted it. So that's a really top line criterion.
Right. Okay. Neil, I have just put the link to the countries there, and someone just
Brilliant.
asked that they are in the UK and they are from India. If you are not working in India, you are not eligible.
Yes, absolutely.
It's as
Absolutely.
easy as that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we can finalize and thank everyone, for attending, all the delegates, participants. Thank you for such a great range of questions. We hope that we've been able to answer all the ones you've asked. There are many other answers out there on the websites. Refer to the websites. If there's something that isn't clear, Nick has explained how you can contact the University of Exeter, and there is an information link from the Hornby website for those.
Yeah.
Otherwise, thank you to my colleagues here, the other 5 presenters at this, and we look forward to receiving an amazing number of very high quality applications.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Neil,
Harry?
is it okay to say we have recorded this, we would upload that,
Yeah.
and we'll make a link to the YouTube on our Hornby Scholarship website. So please keep an eye there. That should happen within a week.
I'm sorry, I got that down to say as well, and I
Oh,
forgot.
thank you. All right. Okay. All right.
You
Okay.
did it. I completely forgot, Harry.
That's fine. That's okay.
So the link will be there for you all. Okay. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy, Leonard, Leo, enjoy your 4-hour session this afternoon, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.